Hey guys, welcome back to Delaware Acre. This is, I guess, the part 2 video of the pepper jelly video that I made a little bit ago. Making this sweet and sour pepper relish to try to use up the rest of the peppers from the 2022 garden season. I had them in my freezer. This recipe requires some chopped cabbage and some Granny Smith apples, of which you can see me here chopping up. I decided to do a voiceover on this video, most of the video, because my kids are now home and my husband's also home and there's a lot of noise happening and there's children asking for snacks. So I end up cutting up some apples for them too. So here I am just cutting off, taking the outer leaves of this cabbage off, and the recipe calls for 2 cups of chopped cabbage, so I'm kind of fighting with it a little bit here. So there's not really much of a core in this cabbage, so I'm using this mason jar as my measuring cup. So I'm just trying to chop this kind of finely. Those apple slices, or apple dices I guess I should say, ended up being kind of big. I don't really eat relish. I'm not really a fan of like pickled or brined things, so this will be an experimental recipe for me to see if I even like it. So I'm just trying to chop all these vegetables and this fruit for this recipe, and then I ended up having extra cabbage. I actually ended up making coleslaw out of that, my own dressing. It was okay. I think this recipe calls for 5 cups of peppers, so I used up that one little Ziploc and 1 cup into this other bag. So we're slowly getting through these peppers. And here I am adding the salt to this combination of apples, cabbage, and peppers, and then just mix it in. The recipe says to mix it in really well and then set it aside and let it sit for 2 hours to let the water, I guess, collect in the bottom. So I just covered it with a towel and waited 2 hours. And here's what it looks like after 2 hours, kind of just collected in the bottom. I started to strain it with this strainer that's I have in the sink here, this clear one, but it's the strainer part from a previous salad spinner that I ended up breaking, and I just hung on to it to use it as a colander, and there's no holes in the bottom. So I end up rinsing it like the recipe says and then putting it into an actual functioning salad spinner. A little bit less than 3 cups of vinegar, so I'm going to put some white vinegar in here. This is the last of my apple cider. Measured out 3 cups of sugar. 3 cups of sugar. Mustard seed. Life hack. The tops of the shaky cheese. Fit on a mason jar. See how much fluid drained out. Waiting for this to boil. Then I'll add this in, cook it for 10 minutes, put it in the jars, put them in there, and then we'll be done. And a nice rolling boil. It's been going for about 5 minutes. So give it another 5. Kind of thinking I should have chopped this up a little smaller, but I don't eat relish, so this will be new for me. We'll see. And at this point, you guys have seen me get jars ready and fill jars, so I'm just putting this on fast forward here, filling up these last of these jars. I'm actually ready to be done canning these peppers. Just wiping the lids off, or I'm sorry, the rims off with some white vinegar, making sure there's no chips or anything on there, adding the lids and the rings, and then putting them in the water bath canner and waiting 10 minutes once it gets up to a boil. When you have so few jars in the water bath canner, sometimes they try to fall over. So I just stood them up, waited 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, and they tend to fall over when you pull the rack up too, which is not ideal, but it's no big deal. Just pick them up and put them on the towel. Usually after big batch canning process like this, I'm usually pretty ready to be done with canning, but it looks really pretty in the jars. I hope I like it. I'll have to recruit some friends and family to taste this. That jar in the back there is has a mayonnaise lid on it. Also, life hack, mayonnaise lids fit on regular mouth mason jars too. But I will take that one into work and see if any of the girls there will try it. I didn't want you to think I forgot about that broth from the original video with the pepper jelly. The 18-quart roaster that I ended up putting it in died halfway through, so it ended up taking a couple of days to get the broth situated. It sat in the fridge for a few days also, so I made a YouTube short when I was canning it up. So I figured I'd insert it here, and again, this is just repeat. You guys have seen me put lids on and can things up. Because broth is a low acid food, it has to be pressure canned. So I'm loading it into the pressure canner, and I'll show you what we came up with. Here's everything canned up. We've got pepper jelly. I put a 1, and a 2 on the first batch versus the second batch, just in case one's spicier than the other, just so I would know. And some of these are doubled up. These 3 are doubled up. Then here is some relish. Some relish that we made together. And then some chicken broth. And my canner wasn't full for the second round of chicken broth, so I just canned some water. And I don't know if this is a safe canning practice, so use your own discretion. But I do this when my canner's not full. So there it is. A couple days worth of work. Actually, a couple days worth of work of canning. But these peppers, I started this time last year, so almost a year. Okay guys, there it is, about a week's worth of canning. The planning for this actually started, like I said, almost a year ago with the starting of the pepper seeds. So I wanted to say thanks for hanging in there. These videos were kind of long. I'm on the lookout for a new roaster pan, since that dying in the middle of the broth making process kind of threw me off a little bit. So until the next video, thanks for watching. Take care. Hope you're well. Bye.